Well, hello everybody, and I'm doing a video here because a lot of you want to know about the CVT transmission. Well, as you can see, I am an owner of a CVT Subaru Crosstrek. I used to be an owner of a CVT WRX. Well, let's find out what the CVT transmission is all about. Well, as you can see, I've done some research, and basically there are two types, well, let's say about three types of CVT transmissions. There's basically the first one is the one that Nissan makes, which is kind of like the rubber band type of CVT. Um, if you basically get sometimes like a little more like a rubber band type of, CVT, you'll see that the rubber band, if you stretch it, it'll stretch. But then after a while, if you do this, that's kind of like how the CVT transmission would be on a Nissan. Now, if you're a Subaru owner of a CVT, well, as you can see, the rubber band type of it is kind of like a chain. So it will basically do the same thing, but if you take a look at the transmission from a CVT on a Subaru and a CVT on a Nissan, it's different. The Nissan has a lot of little like grooves of metal, sort of like shims on it. The CVT transmission on the Subaru is chain. So basically, the chain is a lot of just chain, sort of like the chain that they use on the kind of like a timing chain. Well, is the CVT transmission good, bad? Well, I mean, sometimes I own a CVT transmission on my Crosstrek, and the CVT transmission sometimes it's kind of hard to get the power that you want on a CVT transmission. Well, does a CVT last for a long time? Is it good in long terms? I did a lot of research, and they said that sometimes it's not good on long terms. There's some people that have ran CVT transmissions 100,000 miles, and it still runs. Well, that because it's been maintained all the time. Now, what is the difference of the CVT, which the WRX has, to what the Crosstrek has, or maybe even the when it comes to the Outback, the Forester, the Legacy, and even now the new Ascent? Well, as you can see, the Ascent, the WRX, and the previous Forester turbos, they're CVTs. And what's the problem with the CVT turbo models is it gets too hot, and basically the CVT turbo models, they tend to weaken out when it gets hot. Even when you're off-roading, when you're pulling, or even when you're doing drag races on it too. Um, you know, do a drag race on a CVT transmission, and you'll see it kind of it gets poorly after a while. I owned a CVT WRX, and when I did a few pulls on that WRX CVT, I tell you, it was just not really hooking up at the time. Manual modes on the CVT. Yeah, they put that manual mode on there on the CVT, but if you're a person that constantly is always doing manual modes on it, yeah, it's not going to work as good. You'll see that maybe within 10,000 miles, or maybe even just 9,000 miles, it will start to hiccup. Basically, it will give you a really bad hiccup on it. Like you're just like, what's going on? I would not do manual mode, to be honest with you. The manual modes on the CVT-WRX with the SI drive, with even the S number, you put it on the S number, which is the 8 speeds that it has on it, and you're clicking through those, paddle shifters. I mean, your transmission's it's gonna suffer. I guarantee you that. Try it a few times and you'll see that. I mean, try it when you go to work, or maybe even like when you're just going down the canyon or something, and you'll see that your transmission will start to hiccup. I guarantee you that. Now, a lot of people have asked me, why does the WRX CVT have SI drive? Uh, Japanese, they put SI drive on almost all their cars. They've done it for many years on even on the SI drive legacy 4-speed automatic. So the 4-speed automatic Subaru transmissions, they were really good. I had one and they functioned even better than the CVT today. Um, and let's get now to the CVT Crosstrek. I own a Crosstrek 2018 CVT with the CVT transmission. It acts really good when you press on, when you throttle it, and it gives you that good change to it. But the only problem with the CVT Crosstrek non-turbo and the engine is very low on power. I mean, you guys know that it only has 152 horsepower, which the 152 horsepower, it's not real. It only has like maybe only 130 horsepower at the most. And once that engine starts to kick up, I mean, the CVT transmission is kind of like, I want to go more. So, what is going on? Where's my power? So, it kind of looks at the engine and it's kind of like, you're not powerful enough. Well, if you drive a CVT Crosstrek with that engine, you will feel the difference between the power that it got. Um, the power is very poorly on it. But if you like to hot rod your Crosstrek and you like to throttle it down, that's going to be a problem. If you're more like just a cruiser person, that just basically cruise your Crosstrek down the road and doesn't really mind about how it feels, and you're okay with it. Um, Now the Nissan CVTs, they've had many problems throughout the years. I've seen some CVT transmissions on those Nissans that they're completely blown. Uh, the belt, it completely just shatters inside the transmission, and you cannot shift at all. I mean, it's completely just damaged inside. What's the difference of that belt that it got inside? Well, like I said, this rubber band, you could stretch it, but it'll go back to its normal position. All those little tiny shims that Nissan CVT belt it got inside, if it's not lubricated right, and it has shims inside, also it got like a belt band inside of it. Throughout the while, it will just break and just bam, that's it. It's done. Um, I wouldn't tow on those CVT transmissions at all. Nissan puts the CVT transmission on some V6 models, and they say they could tow a trailer or it could tow a motorhome. I wouldn't tow it. I wouldn't tow anything on that. I would just not tow it at all. CVT all-wheel drives transverse design. They're more complicated than the CVT Subaru transmission. The reason why is because transverse design, then you got an all-wheel drive system on it. Basically, the CVT it has to be more uh, piled up in there, and you're is a front drive, and sometimes uh, me being me being a mechanic and knowing how it works, CVT front wheel drive sometimes it's kind of not so good. Even the CVT on the Subarus today, they're kind of like sluggish. You're pushing them on, you're just like, is this transmission going to last me for 10,000 miles if I want to keep this? Well, I wouldn't keep it. I would probably just lease it and just trade it in, and that's it. Uh, they do still do good transmissions out there. I mean, they're going from like 8, 9 to even 10 speed automatic transmissions. Uh, are they good? The 10 speeds, the 9 speeds, or even the 8 speeds? I don't know. I haven't drawn them. I mean, I've been now in the CVT life since 2012. Since the Subaru Impreza that had that CVT belt that just had one gear, and then the car will accelerate, and then after a while it would just go down slowly. And that was all of those 2012 Imprezas. Now, when I purchased a CVT WRX, it was different. It had that more torquey feel to it. But then after a while, it just started feeling kind of weird. Noises, hiccups. There was even a time where, I don't know if you noticed, like when you shifted on when you shift it on reverse and you press the throttle right away, you'll basically feel like a da 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 da, like it just kind of like skipped, like it just didn't like, and you're just like, whoa, what the hell happened there? And then you're just like, whoa. It doesn't do it on the Crosstrek. It doesn't do it on the Outback and even on the Forester, but it does do it on the turbo models. And I tested the WRX, the Ascent, even on the Turbo Foresters. Now, the Turbo Forester and the Turbo Ascent, they got X mode, which you can off road and stuff like that. But I've heard a lot of bad things about the X mode CVT off roading. Transmissions get too hot, they don't function, the all wheel drive fails, and basically you have to pound it just to go up a hill if you want to off road it. Now, the 4-speed automatics on the all wheel drive uh, Subarus were great. They worked good, all that stuff, and those were great. Um, can you fix the problem on the CVT transmission with being off-road? Well, there's been a few people where they put in transmission coolers. Now, when you put a transmission cooler on a CVT, remember, it's not just a transmission cooler that you can put on there. There's another modification that you can do is that you can add a fan onto the transmission cooler. So if you're going off-road and you're doing kind of like idling that engine, well, the fan will help cool the transmission oil on that, so that way you can off-road it, and it works perfectly and better than that. Now there's another problem with the CVT WRX, where it has a top mount intercooler, and it got all that heat from the engine that pulls up and the air that goes through the intercooler to cool that charge. Well, guess what the results ends up with that in the CVT transmission? Well, all that hot air is going to go down to that intercooler and down to that CVT transmission, and there's your heat problem there. All that heat's going to be going into the transmission, and that's the reason why you get a little bit of transmission failure in that CVT. So, what is the best thing you can do on a WRX CVT? Well, if transmission cooler is the best, you can probably do a modification, do a front mount, and just take that. I haven't seen a WRX yet with a non-hood scoop. you know, WRX CVT with the non-hood scoop, so that way all that air won't, you know, all that heat of air doesn't just go into that transmission, it just boils up the fluid inside. But there hasn't been any test done for that yet, so I don't know if that will work. So um, if there was maybe a test where to the point where you just take the hood scoop off and just put a front mount intercooler and then put your transmission cooler, so that way it'll probably even work better. But like I said, there hasn't been any test done on that yet. No one has done it. No one hasn't really taken off their hood scoop or even blocked it, see if it actually works. So no idea if it even works. But if you do happen to do a transmission cooler, if you're off-roading and if you're doing idling on that Forester that you're off-roading, or even the Ascent, if you decide to even off-road the Ascent and you're idling that engine, I would recommend to do a transmission cooler with a fan. So that way you turn the fan on and that fan will just keep it cool all the time. So that way that fan is blowing onto that oil cooler and that transmission cooler that you have. You don't have to get a big huge fan. You can just get the same size of a fan of how your transmission cooler is. They sell many fans where you can modify a fan like that in many places where you can, maybe even maybe not on the websites, just find a fan where you can just fit on there, and then that way it'll work better. But yes, the CVT transmission, what can you do? Can you do a long term on it, 100,000 miles? Can I keep it until 200,000 miles? That's all depends on your driving and how good the transmission will come out from the factory from there. Subaru's not offering 100,000 miles on them now. We're to the point, if they do happen to have problems, well, they replace it for free. That's a good thing. But the question is, are you going to keep your car for 100,000 miles? Are you going to keep it because you love it, you like the style, you like the way it drives? And sometimes Subaru throws out better and newer models. So it's just all up to you. Um, if you do have any comments, and if you do want to go ahead and message me, go ahead. And you know, I would really like to do a setup to the point where what would happen if the WRX did have a front mount intercooler, and what if the hood scoop was taken off? Will it make a difference? And you know, will the transmission cooler do a difference? We don't know. I was thinking of doing a front. I was thinking of doing a transmission cooler for my Crosstrek to see if it even worked with a fan on it. In case if I want to off-road it and see if that works. There's a lot of room on the front of the Crosstrek where you can do a lot of just things on the front. You can even put a front mount intercooler. You can even put the transmission cooler with it too, you know, and do a turbocharge on it. But Subaru lately probably won't do a turbocharged Crosstrek, so we'll wait and see what it does. Well, let me know in the comments. Comment down below and give me any comments if you can. Thank you.